Good day, grade 9s. This is your Term 2, Lesson 2, and it is on sectors of the economy. In your textbook, your Today textbook, you will find it on pages 112 to 125. What we will be discussing in this lesson: the definition of the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector, types of businesses found in the three sectors, the interrelationship of the three sectors, the sustainable use of resources in the three sectors, the role of the sectors in the economy, the types of skills required from workers in each sector. We are first going to define the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. The economy is divided into three sectors based on their stage in the production process. It's known as the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary sector. The primary sectors are all the industries or businesses involved in producing goods. It's usually in the farming, forestry, mining, and fishing sectors, where goods are extracted or produced straight from nature. Secondary sector include industries or businesses involved in producing goods by changing them from one form to another in a factory or a manufacturing process. So the secondary sector involves the manufacturing of goods. The tertiary sector is also known as the service sector, and it is involved in the production of services and the selling of goods and services, such as retailing, insurance, and banking. So now we're going to first discuss the primary sector. The first stage in the production process is the primary stage, and this is the process where natural resources are taken from the earth. The development of the primary sector in a country depends on the natural resources available within the economy. If the country has rich reserves of precious metals or has ideal soil and climate conditions for farming, this should lead to major developments of the mining and the farming sectors. Types of businesses in the primary sector. The types of businesses in the primary sector includes mining, fishing, and various commercial farming activities. The relationship between the primary sector and the other sectors. All three of the sectors work together to create an economic chain of production. The primary sector gathers raw materials. The secondary sector then takes these raw materials and they transform it into products and they manufacture it into products. And then the tertiary sector sells and supports the activity of the other two. Without the primary sector, without the secondary sector, the primary sector will not have anyone that they can sell their goods to. But the primary sector also depends on the tertiary sector to deliver them service for transportation of their raw materials, banking, insurance, etc. The role of the primary sector in the South African economy. South Africa's economy has traditionally been rooted in the primary sector because of the wealth of mineral resources and our favorable agricultural conditions. The country is renowned for an abundance of mineral resources, accounting for a significant proportion of both world production and reserves. And South African mining companies dominate many sectors in the global industry. South Africa is the world's biggest producer of gold and platinum and one of the leading producers of base metals and coal. The country's diamond industry is the fourth largest in the world. So as you can see, the primary sector plays a significant role in the South African economy. Sustainable use of resources in the primary sector. This has been one of the greatest challenges worldwide. The supply of resources are limited, so we will have to find alternative sources. Fish species need to be protected, and fishing quotas need to be controlled. Trees need to be replaced. once they are felled. Soil used in farming needs to have time to lie fallow and must constantly be fertilized. Stop water pollution. We need to focus on that. Types of skills required in the primary sector. Only about 4% of people working in the agricultural sector are skilled, with the majority of workers being unskilled. The management skills of planning and controlling are necessary for farm management, but the majority of farm work is manual labor and requires more physical strength than intellectual ability. So the type of skills that are required in the primary sector are mostly unskilled to semi-skilled workers. Obviously, you need a farmer that has skills in order to farm, but the majority of the workers that are employed within the primary sector are semi-skilled or even unskilled. We are now going to discuss the secondary sector. And the secondary sector is involved in the making or producing of goods. So it is the production sector. It includes all manufacturing businesses. These businesses add value by combining raw materials and making it into a new product. So basically, they take inputs, they first have to source these inputs, they then transform it into outputs, which are sold to consumers or other businesses which require semi-final products. So sometimes if you are involved in making machinery, some of the aspects that you put in your machinery are semi-final products, and that is obviously bought from factories that specialize in producing those semi-final products. So what are the types of businesses in the secondary sector? All businesses in the secondary sector are involved in some manufacturing or production activity. So it's basically factories. The subsectors of the secondary sector includes businesses that manufacture or produce goods, for example, factories. Secondly, assemble products, for example, automotive assembly lines. Participate in construction activities, for example, building houses, roads and railways. And then also the power plants that provide electricity to us, and even water purification plants. They all form part of the secondary sector. So what is the relationship between the secondary sector and the other sectors? The secondary sector is dependent on the primary sector for them to provide them with the raw materials they need to produce their goods. They are also dependent on the tertiary sector, such as insurance providers, banks, advertising agencies, transport, electricians, storage companies, wholesalers and retailers to sell their final products to the customers, etc. So they are all linked, and without the primary and the tertiary sector, the secondary sector cannot function. What is the role of the secondary sector in the South African economy? The role of the secondary sector in the economy is to provide income for households, businesses, and government, because it provides goods for the satisfaction of needs and wants, and as inputs into other businesses such as retailers. The secondary sector also helps to stimulate the growth of other activities such as services and to create employment and economic empowerment. So those, I would say, are the two most important roles that the secondary sector plays in the South African economy. They create job opportunities, employment, and they create economic empowerment. Because the more factories we have in our country, if the secondary sector grows, then our economy will also grow. Sustainable use of resources in the secondary sector. The secondary sector is responsible for managing resources in such a way that it creates environmental, economic, and social awareness. Manufacturers need to ensure that they do not pollute the environment. So they should not waste their inputs or their resources, and also not dump chemicals and other things into the rivers, etc. So they should not pollute. They mustn't pollute and destroy aspects of the environment. Types of skills required in the secondary industry. In the manufacturing sector, there's a clear distinction between factory workers, the majority of whom are semi-skilled or unskilled, and office workers who are more skilled. So about 17% of workers in the manufacturing sector are unskilled. Here, the skills needed are not so much physical. They repeat steps in the production process over and over and over again all day. So then they become specialized in that one specific aspect within the whole process. So I would say that we need skilled laborers in the secondary industry more than we need semi-skilled or unskilled, as only 17% of the workers are unskilled. Now we're going to look at the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector is also known as the service sector. The tertiary sector consists of all the services that are provided by businesses to other businesses and final consumers. Services in the tertiary sector includes the services provided by shops that sell physical products. It also includes services provided by banks and also by restaurants, hotels, etc. Types of businesses in the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector includes all shops, retail and wholesale, that sells products and delivers services. It includes banks, insurance companies, investment firms, transport companies, and advertising agencies. Any business that sells a service is also in the tertiary sector. This includes doctors, lawyers, analysts, hairdressers, plumbers, electricians, estate agents, decorators, hotels, restaurants, and communication. What is the relationship between the tertiary sector and the other sectors? The primary and secondary sectors would struggle to operate if they did not have access to the services provided by the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector acts almost like a link between the primary and the secondary sector. If you have a farm and you are providing or producing raw materials, in order for that raw materials to reach the factory that's going to use it in the production of their final goods, it needs to be transported. And that transportation company is the tertiary sector. So that is why we say that the tertiary sector acts as a link between the primary and the secondary sector. Sustainable use of resources in the tertiary sector. Now, we know by now that the tertiary sector does not make use of raw materials primarily. They deliver a service. So how can a tertiary sector be sustainable in the use of resources? Both the primary and secondary sectors tend to have a greater impact on the environment than the tertiary sector. But the importance is that the tertiary sector needs to also focus on sustainability. I have attached a photo here of Woolworths, who is a good example of a sustainable business practice. You will see that they are committed to care for the environment, people, and the communities. They are sustainable environmentally, socially, and economically. So you will see they make use of the My School card, the My Planet card, whenever you buy something from them, some of the money goes towards the My School card or whatever card you have. And then they obviously sponsor certain projects where they try to develop sustainability in the communities and in the environment. Types of skills required in the tertiary sector. Although this is a sector where there's the greatest growth and the greatest need for employees, it is also the sector which requires skilled or semi-skilled workers. There are very few jobs available for unskilled workers in this sector. The advances in technology, especially in e-commerce, have made the sector of our economy very competitive, not only among local businesses, but also among businesses worldwide. I have now attached photos of the activities as it is in your textbook. You need to please complete this And as soon as you come back to school, I want to see that it is done. Thank you.